As I was saying, we're going to go ahead and get started with our pre-presentation. We have a woman coming to talk to us, Sarah, I don't know how to say your last name.
It's okay.
With the Illinois Council Against Handgun Violence. And she's going to talk to us really briefly while we wait for folks to kind of trickle in before our PC training. So if you will give her your undivided attention, she's going to talk to you about some recent legislation on handgun violence, which I believe will be of interest to most of you. Hello, hello. All right, Sarah.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. So I'm Sarah Kneznik. You can just call me Sarah. My name is unpronounceable and almost impossible to spell, so don't worry about that unless you want to email me. And my last name isn't in the email address, so you don't have to worry about that. Sarah is fine. So I'm really glad to be here tonight. I came from the northern suburbs. I work for the Illinois Council Against Handgun Violence, and the reason I'm here is because of gun dealer licensing. Can I see a show of hands of people who know what I'm talking about? Okay, great. I just wanted to know how much detail I needed to go in. So I'm going to pass around a fact sheet about the bill. Because I know you have many other more important things to talk about tonight.
No?
Okay. You have many other additional important things to talk about tonight. Equally important things to talk about. I'm not going to get into the details, but they're all explained here at the 5 bullet points on the bottom. 4 bullet points at the top describe the problem. The 5 bullet points at the bottom describe how this bill will address the problem and solve it. But the gist of the bill is, because there is no licensing requirement to sell a gun in Illinois, it's very easy for irresponsible gun dealers, and unfortunately there are too many of them, to sell guns without doing proper background checks, without making sure they're not being sold to straw purchasers. Is there anyone that needs a definition of straw purchaser?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, so a straw purchaser is someone who can buy a gun and buys it on behalf of someone who cannot. So one of the things this bill will do will require employees of gun dealers to go through training so that they can recognize straw purchases and stop them before they happen. So because there is no licensing requirement, there are too many gun dealers in Illinois, not just near Chicago, but also near cities like Danville, Champaign, Springfield, East St. Louis, all over the state. There are too many gun dealers who are able to get away with not practicing responsible business practice, not following responsible business practices. So this bill will stop that. I'm going to ask you to take one of these and pass them around. Thank you. So what we really need to do is in the next 3.5 weeks, because first let me back up. This bill, Senate Bill 1657, was originally introduced in the Illinois Senate in 2002. It failed to pass 14 years in a row. It finally passed in April of this year, and the reason that it passed was because of groups like you. Okay, your group? That's right. That's absolutely right. There are gun violence prevention organizations, but also organizations like yours that are focused more narrowly on political issues and political change that also got engaged in helping get this bill passed out of the Senate. So Indivisible Groups, Action for a Better Tomorrow, we all sort of woke up after the election last fall. A lot of us, many of you in this room probably have always been politically savvy, but I, for one, am among those groups of progressives who didn't know what a witness slip was until last winter, right? But the thing is, collectively, we all sort of found our political voice in the wake of last year's election. Hi there.
Ask them if they know what a witness slip is.
Who knows what a witness slip is?
Okay, so there's a few.
Are you happy with that
He
response?
doesn't know. There's a bunch that don't know. You should.
You guys weren't here for our lobbying seminar, apparently.
So, well, I did not know what a witness slip was 11 months ago, okay? Had no idea, all right? But a witness slip is something that you can sign electronically. It takes literally less than a second, less than 30 seconds. But you sign it, you send it to committees in either the Senate or the House, and you are able to express without actually going to Springfield that you would like a bill to be voted on or not voted on in the House or the Senate. So what happened was Senate Bill 1657 was finally passed out of the Illinois Senate last spring because people like you and people in gun violence prevention organizations across Illinois figured out how to make their voices heard. So we were finally, after 14 years, people like you pushed this bill over the finish line. So it was finally passed out of the Illinois Senate, and this is the really exciting part. I love to tell this story. Everybody ready? It's bipartisan. It passed with bipartisan support in the Illinois Senate because it needed 30 votes to pass in the Illinois Senate. It got 30 votes, and the 30th vote was cast by a Republican senator named Rooney, who 1 week before the bill swore that he would never vote for it. He changed his mind on the very day of the vote, and that afternoon published an open letter to his constituents saying, I did not like this bill, I do not like this bill, I did not intend to vote for it, I didn't want to vote for it, but so many of you, my constituents, called and asked me to vote for it that I felt I had no choice. Every time I tell the story, I get chills. Because what it teaches me really is that our elected officials don't lead. We lead. Okay? We have to tell them what we want, and they follow us. We don't follow them. So we're trying to do exactly the same thing now in the Illinois House. Veto session, this bill will be voted on in the Illinois House because the House members declined to vote on it in spring session. So it will be voted on in veto session sometime between October 24th and November 7th. We only need 9 more votes to get the bill to pass. There are 14 legislators who have not yet made up their minds whether or not they will vote for the bill. We only need 9 of them, and one of them is Representative Larry Walsh, which is why I'm here today. So the next thing I'm going to pass out is an action sheet. You have everything you need right here. If you have not yet called Representative Larry Walsh and asked him to support this bill, please do. Everything you need is right here, including his phone number under step 1. And there's also a script here where you can just read right from this box. You don't even have to think about what you're going to say. Please feel free to take extras if you have friends or family members. Maybe take a photo with your phone of the call sheet and send it to everyone you know that you know lives in Walsh's district. We need to drive as many phone calls and emails as possible into Representative Walsh's district.
What district is that?
Oh, the number. I knew you were going to ask me that. Does anybody know?
He's the northern part of Pat McGuire's state Senate district, so the southern part is now John Connor. I'm sorry, I said that backwards. The northern part is John Connor. The southern part is Larry Walsh Jr. So it's like Joliet, a little bit of Lockport, Crest Hill.
And I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Sarah.
Hi, sir. I'm Jackie.
Thank you. You're very helpful to me. I appreciate it. So if you do not live in Representative Walsh's district, I have just the thing for you. This is a generic call sheet. Under step 1, instead of finding Larry Walsh's number, you'll find a URL, a website address. You can go to that address, enter your, that website, enter your address, and you will be given your representative's name and phone number. Even if you are not in Representative Walsh's district, that means whoever your representative is, if you live in this area, he or she is not supporting the bill, but we still want you to call because it really helps in the long run. And this is a fight that we are waging over the long term. We're trying to change the minds of elected officials who are used to thinking that it's only the NRA side that is vocal. So we need to be vocal too, even if our representatives are not supporting the bill. So if you know you don't live in Walsh's district, please take one of these.
Do you happen to know if Senator Pat McGuire signed it or Jennifer Bertino-Tarrant?
Is Senator Pat McGuire a Democrat or a Republican?
Democrat, so he voted for it.
I don't know, but I will look it up while someone else is speaking.
Clarice knows.
Clarice, hi.
I went to see Larry Walsh yesterday.
Right, I got your email message, yes.
And he is, by the way, Walsh is in the 86th district.
Thank you, 86.
Oh, okay.
He gave me the list of the Senate votes when I was there.
Oh, wonderful.
And Pat McGuire voted yes.
Oh, great.
Natalie Manley and Jennifer both were no vote, or not, they probably weren't on the floor, maybe intentionally not on the floor.
Well, Natalie hasn't voted yet, she'll vote in veto session. But Jennifer, you're saying, didn't vote?
Yeah,
Okay.
right. And Natalie's listed as an NV2.
Yeah, Jennifer's the senator.
Oh, right, okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
And,
I had the feeling that Natalie was a pro-gun person, so that's why I was surprised you just mentioned Walsh and you didn't talk about Natalie.
Oh, that is because Representative Manley is not on our list of legislators that we think we can convince to
Yeah, I don't
vote
think
for
you
the
can
bill.
answer.
That doesn't mean you shouldn't call Representative Manley, because we are fighting the long game here, and we want even those representatives who will never in a million years vote for gun safety laws, we want them to hear from us anyway, so we can start changing the mindset that only the NRA is willing to speak up on this issue. Clarice?
Yeah, I think people should know the one thing that Larry Walsh told me, which is that he gets more calls on guns than on any other issue.
And when he said that to you, Clarice, did he mean on both sides of the gun issue? Or
I
did he
asked
mean-
him about both sides of the gun issue, and he said he said that often he gets about a 50-50, but that he has a big NRA constituency, and that he hears big time from them on everything.
Okay, here's a fact. A majority of NRA members are reasonable. I know, I probably don't expect somebody like me to say that, but it's true, they are. A majority of them join because they get discounts, okay? And really, actually, there's no problem, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many gun violence advocates, with responsible gun ownership. But there is a very vocal minority that is a part of the NRA, and they are the ones constantly calling into their representatives' offices. What's
Also known as the alt-right.
Yes, that's exactly. But they are very well. The Tea Party. They're very well funded, and they're very vocal, and they get all of the attention, and they leave our elected officials with a misunderstanding of what their districts are like. I live in the northern Chicago suburbs. My district is very progressive. Over 90%, we've done a poll, over 90% of the people in my district support this bill. But when I talk to my representative, who also hasn't decided yet whether or not she will vote for the bill, she says 90% of the calls I get are from NRA members. That's because people on our side of the issue just aren't calling. It needs to become a habit. Because the truth is, people who want safer gun laws, there are many more of us than there are who want no gun safety laws, okay? There are many more of us. There are only two ways to make change. You probably already know this. There are only two ways to make change in politics, that's money and people. We have many more people on our side of the issue. The NRA has money. We can trump, I hate using that word. We can trump that, all that cash, with many, many, many voices. So please call, no matter whose district you live in. Finally, when we pass the bill out of the Illinois House, which I am very, very optimistic that we will, it will go to Governor Rauner's desk. He has not publicly stated whether or not he will vote for the bill, but we suspect he will want to veto it. So we are presenting him with 20,000 signatures, asking him not to. I'm going to pass this clipboard around, and we'll just kind of pass it around the room while the evening goes on. If you could please sign it, I would really appreciate that. But what you can also do, I'm going to pass these blank petitions around. This is a very easy way to help. You can get 10 people to sign the petition and mail it to us at the address at the bottom of this page.
No notary seal.
Nope, you don't have to have a notary seal. In fact, the people who sign it don't even have to live in Illinois. It's nice if they do, but hey, you know, your cousin from California is visiting, why not ask them, right? Finally, I just really want to stress, veto session is October 24th through November 7th. So we have to take action right now. And there's one final thing you can do. If you are a constituent of Larry Walsh, you live in his district, you can help in a far more significant way beyond the things I've talked about tonight. That's why I want to make sure everyone here has my card. If you or anyone you know, whose friend, family, anybody you have influence over, lives in Larry Walsh's district, and you are willing to go talk to him in person like Clarice did, that will make a bigger difference than anything else. The more in-office visits we can get to Larry Walsh, the better. So I'm going to pass these around. Take as many as you like. Please mail them to us when you get 10 signatures. Put these over here. And the final thing I would like to say, I promise I'm done after this. One more point I'd like to make. If you look on the back, may I use this for a moment, Larry? If you look on the back of the gun dealer licensing sheet, do you see this? Well, there are many churches on the back, but there are many other gun violence prevention organizations and social justice organizations as well, from all over Illinois. I was hired 2 months ago by the Illinois Council Against Handgun Violence to, after the GDL vote is over, once this bill has been voted on, my sole purpose will be to grow this coalition of organization members, but not only to grow it, to facilitate cooperation and collaboration among its members. So there are lots of coalitions, right? Great idea. All us social justice groups, we're going to work together, we'll be more effective. But the problem is most coalitions don't have a paid staff person available around 40 hours a week or more to facilitate that cooperation. After this GDL vote is over, that will be my sole purpose in my job. So we would love it, absolutely love it, if the Will County Progressives would join the Illinois Gun Violence Prevention Coalition. And if you would like to join right away, you can come to our summit next Friday, October 6th in Chicago. You can all come, or you can send a representative. Who's in charge? Who can I leave the?
Larry.
Thank you, Larry. So, I know we have a lot more to talk about tonight. Are there any questions before I have a seat? Well, I'm really looking forward to hearing how you guys do things, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Sarah. Alrighty, so we're going to get started in like 1 minute and make sure we got everybody in frame here. And in the meantime, Clarissa has a quick announcement. Very quick. If you can come stand up in front, Clarissa, that'd be great.
Last week, I talked to you about the Equal Rights Amendment.
Get in frame, darling.
Sit down.
Last week, I talked to you about the Equal Rights Amendment, and I told Larry I was going to send him some stuff to post on the website, and I didn't send him the stuff to post on the website, but I did make copies. And one is from the Illinois Bipartisan Coalition to support the Equal Rights Amendment, and it explains some of the stuff I told you about last week. And the other is general information for contacting your rep. And that's in fact why I had made my appointment with Larry Walsh yesterday, was to go to talk about the ERA, but then Sarah contacted me and asked me if I'd also plug in the gun dealership issue. So
Two birds, one rock. Good job.
Right. Well, Larry Walsh, you will be pleased to know, has already told Lou Lang that he's on board for this. But we have other representatives from Will County, and I have a list of their names, and they are all people that have not voted progressively on any number of issues. But this bill, there really be no skin off their nose on this bill. So if you want to find out what their names are or where the people are from your district, I do have a list and I can show you that. But in the meantime, I guess I'll put this on the table over here, and so please take it and please contact your representatives, especially if they're not Larry Walsh, who's already said he'll do it. But he could stand to be reminded.
And thanks. You know, not just lobby people, but thank them for their voting record.
Yes.
If they're voting the way you want them to.
Oh, good point.
Okay, whisperers, are we getting started?
We're getting started, so if our panel would come on up and join us. John, Reed, Bob.
And John is here or something? Yeah, there's John.
John is here. So we are tonight honored to have some of the strongest precinct committee folks in the county sharing their experience, helping folks to understand just how important the job of precinct committee person is, how to do it well, the difference between appointed and elected. And we will be wrapping up with, for those of you who are ready to do that, a little bit on how to get your paperwork going, how to get your petitions going, what you have to do to actually get elected. And we're even willing to hold your hand and walk petitions with you. I mean, we are that serious. This is so important. So I'm going to introduce our panel. We have the incredible Jackie Trainier. I met Jackie working in the Bernie campaign, doing a phone bank at somebody's house. and her reputation preceded her. Everybody there was like, this woman is like the best precinct committee woman we've ever seen. And she's going to talk to you about how to do that. She has Dems in her precinct who love her, and for incredibly good reason. She also took on Roger Clare, the old incumbent whatever, over there in Bolingbrook, and came within inches of defeating him, even though he's been there 30 years, has an incredible machine. So she's a power mover in the Democratic Party and someone you want to pay attention to. Next we have John Sanchez, who is the Frankfurt Dem chair, who is out there in the wilderness of
A sea of red.
a sea of red, and doing a pretty awesome job of it. Bob Sevilla has some tips that just amaze me. He works his precinct. He's got a newsletter that he delivers to those Wheatland Dems and the Republicans and anybody else who will listen. He's not prejudiced. And wrapping up, we have Reed Bible, who was a former Will County board member. I should have mentioned Jackie is a current Will County board member. Reed was a Will County board member. He was also the former director of the Plainfield Township Dems. So he has a lot of really good information to share with us as well. And then our own chair will be wrapping up with the nuts and bolts and the Larry stuff of how to actually do this stuff and get yourself elected. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jackie and company, and please give them all your attention.
So, the first time I ran for Precinct Committeeman, I had taken a 5-year hiatus from Will County and made the unfortunate decision to live in a red area of Lake County. I lived in a town called Wakanda. I was the only Democratic Precinct Committee person.
Wow.
And I got that title after just showing up at one meeting for the Democrats. They were just so desperate to have a person. I did most of my work over in the Waukegan area, and then when I moved back to Will County a few years later, well, as you can imagine, it was very difficult to find the Democratic Party. It took me a few years and many phone calls, but did finally find them the year that Barack Obama was elected to the state Senate. And I found them at a victory party, actually, so go figure. Never knocking on doors, but found them at a party. We need to make our party more visible, and the only way to do that is with Precinct Committeemen. So I did bring a couple of handouts tonight. There's a few more over here at the end of the meeting. If you didn't get one, you can grab one. I just kind of put one on each table. The first one's real simple, nuts and bolts. What is a Democratic Precinct Committeeman? The basics. What's a precinct? Does everybody here know what a precinct is? Okay. The job description, qualifications, responsibilities, and the different ways to become a precinct committeeman. So that's all there. And if you don't know already your precinct number where you live and your other vital information for your elected officials, I would encourage you to do a little research and find that out going to the clerk's website. You know, if somebody calls you up and asks you what county board district you live in, you should know. You should know. You really should. I'm not trying to say that, you know, if you don't, it's a bad thing, you know, like you're going to get a demerit or something. But it is something you should know. And so this gives you a really handy place to write down all of your legislative districts. So that's helpful. And then after you do that, you might want to go through your town and your township and add those onto the list because they're not listed there. This other little packet, Training for Dems, this was brought to me through an organization called Toastmasters. How many people here have heard of Toastmasters? Okay, so there is a chapter of Toastmasters in DuPage County. They meet in Wheaton at a small not-for-profit community building called the 213 building in Wheaton. I think it's 213 Wheaton Avenue, actually. And they meet twice a month on a Sunday afternoon, and they're all Democrats. Can you believe it? And we do this little thing called table topics where you get up and talk about an issue and then just for like 2 minutes, and then people from the audience can get up and respond to what you said for 1 minute to 2 minutes. It's a great way for you to become comfortable talking about issues in a very friendly and supportive environment. You can also learn at that program how to give speeches if you choose to go through their manuals. The first speech you give is an icebreaker speech, and it's about 5 to 7 minutes long, and it's supposed to be an introduction of you to the group. So it's very inexpensive to be a member. I think it is like $10 a month. So it's not a huge financial commitment. They do meet twice a month. There are contests. There are fabulous world-renowned speakers that they bring in periodically throughout the year, and you can go and see those speakers and learn their tips and tricks, and it costs you nothing. Just one of the speakers I really remember, he came from a foreign country, I can't remember where, something Eastern Bloc. They called him Prez, that wasn't his name, he had a long name with a lot of letters. His speech was changed by a tire. An amazing speech. You could probably look it up on YouTube and watch the speech. Really, really good. So I can highly recommend Toastmasters. And this group in DuPage County is called Peace Toastmasters, and I forget what the acronym stands for. But they formed in response to a group of people that formed a Toastmasters group called WAR. And the WAR group, I know their acronym, We Are Republicans. Yep. So Peace is a great Toastmasters group. Helen McCullum, I'm giving her credit here for this drama exercise, but it's really, you're talking to these voters because they're your neighbors. But you also want to know a little bit about them, because not all of them vote solidly Democrat in every primary. You know, your solid Ds, you know, you can go to their door and you can start rapping about anything and pretty much you're going to connect. But the ones you don't know how they vote, you need to ask them questions. You know, find out what their concerns are. Ask them how long they've lived here. Do they have kids in the school district? What are their favorite government services? They probably don't even realize, you know, when they go to the park district or to the forest preserve, that that's a government service. Listen a lot to what they have to say. Let them do a lot of the talking. Ask good probing questions. Repeat back to them what they tell you. That makes them feel like they were heard, and that also helps you remember who the heck they are. Helen's program, she uses acronyms a lot, and her solution was called DRAMA. So D is for demonstrating people buy solutions to their problems. You want to ask them what they would do with an additional $2,000 in their paycheck. I heard the Trump people saying yesterday that the tax cut was going to allow people to remodel their kitchen and buy a car. I'm sorry. I don't know what planet they're on. I notice we're talking about a dollhouse kitchen and maybe, you know, what do you call those little kids' cars?
Matchbox.
Matchbox car? That's about what I could buy with the tax cut that I'm going to get.
No, you're not getting it.
So, you know, talk to them though. If they talk to you about property taxes, you know, talk to them. Listen to what they have to say about what they would do, you know, with the extra money. Take time to help them become knowledgeable on issues. You know, they do have a voice in how much their taxes are. It's like Sarah said, there are more of us than there are of them. And if we get our people talking and using their voices and educating them on the issues, then we will win the day, because our issues are definitely, I would say our solutions are definitely better. So there's quite a little thing here on drama that you can read through. Anticipate objections when you're talking to people. You know, they're going to say things, oh, I'm not going to vote, my vote doesn't count. You know, they're going to say that. You're going to run into people that say, well, you can say, hey, I can tell you about 2 candidates that ran for office and lost by, you know, X number of votes. In Bolingbrook, we got Jamie Olson, lost by 36 votes. Every single vote counts. And anybody that's elected to office listens to the people who put them in that office if they want to stay there. Mr. Rauner is about to find that out. He voted our way on the issue, and his people are going to put him on the curb. So, you know, you need to voice your opinion, and that is how people make change. We had a great speaker last year. The Illinois Democratic Women put on a program, Democracy Now!, Talk It or Lose It. Wish we would have had all of you in the room. There were a few in the room that were there. But Steve talked about how you use the Constitution to talk to some of these folks and probing questions, and she just did a fabulous job with that training. So we should be listening more than we are talking, asking questions and then repeating back what that person has said to you. And if you think they're off the wall, say, hey, can you tell me more about that? Or why do you think that? Where did you hear that? You know, don't say you're nuts, even if they are. Just because they don't agree with you doesn't mean they're nuts. They just they have a limited view of the world. They have not seen your side yet. So you want to ask them, you know, tell me more about that. Where did you hear this? Why do you believe that? Don't tell them, you know, they're wrong. Just ask them why they believe that. That's really the most important thing. The other thing she talks here about making a close, you know, comparing two candidates. Be truthful and honest. You know, only talk about what you know. If you don't have an answer, just say, I don't know. I'll find out and I'll get back to you. Paint the picture of what happens when we have the status quo and we don't move forward. That's very important. Ask them their opinions. Tell a story. If you have a story to tell, that's a fabulous, fabulous way to connect with people. Illustrate a specific example. For example, here in Will County, this will be the second or the third year in a row where the tax rate has actually dropped. Now that doesn't mean your tax bill is lower for your county portion of your tax bill, but the rate has dropped, and that's a good thing. We're not looking for more revenue, and we're continuing to do things on the county level. You know, we got a new public safety facility that just went up and is about to open. We're going to be building a new courthouse. We're going to replace old aging infrastructure like our public health building. You can talk to them about where their tax dollars are going. And you can't be knowledgeable on everything, but you can know a couple of things about each level of government, and that'll be helpful. It's kind of like I say, how do you guys eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So it's the same thing when you're a precinct committeeman. You get this precinct, you got 1,200 voters. Think about it. That's a lot of people. There's no way you're going to go out and talk to them all in one election cycle. And it's just, they're not going to be home, for one thing. But it's a huge amount. So recruit additional help if you can. As you're out knocking on doors, and I would start with the easy ones. I would start with the solid Ds, and I think my colleagues here would agree. Start with your strong Ds that show up for every election and get to know them. Make sure they know you. But be accountable too. When they ask you questions or they need information, make sure you get back to them. I'm a union organizer. That's my day job right now. Has been for 22 years. I'm pretty good at what I do, but the best organizer is a bad boss. Really hard to sell a union to someone who's happy, right? Okay? We got a really bad boss right now in the White House and another one in the governor's mansion. So this is the time to grow the party. There's no better time to grow this party. Use Vote Builder. If you haven't gone to training yet, there's one tomorrow morning at Rasmussen College over in DuPage Township. Show up for it, get some information, start using that Vote Builder system. Don't just get an account and let it sit there. Find a way to use it. Find someone else that's using it. Get him to show you. You know, learn how to use that system. It is our best friend. That tool has so much to it. It's unbelievable how powerful it is. And my experience here in Will County, there's probably only a handful of people that even use it a little bit.
Wow.
Anybody disagree?
No, I don't disagree, but the reason is that there has been no training provided. When I got elected as a precinct committeeman, about 2 days before a training thing was way gone awful side of the country, I would get notice that, well, if you want to go to South Chicago Saturday morning, you get this Thursday night.
Well, I'll tell you, if you want to know about training and you aren't hearing about it, email me, call me. I must get 25 emails a day from different Democratic organizations These two ladies from my area can attest to the fact that I'm always sharing training opportunities with them. Karen too, I've probably bombarded her email box enough times.
Jackie, where was the class?
Rasmussen College.
They're,
Romeoville.
yeah.
What time?
9:30.
9:30
You
is.
can just
Two
show up?
sections. There's
Well, go to the-
a newbies section at 9:30, and then 12 to 2, there's an experience review. So decide where you fit in there and
Yeah.
show up at that time.
And if you don't use it a lot, you probably need to go to the beginner session anyway at 9:30. But it's Rasmussen, it's on the southwest corner of Weber and 55, behind the big gas station. There's a college there. So Vote Builder is your friend. You can put people's email addresses in there. You can update their phone numbers. You can keep track of who takes yard signs. Yard signs are important to candidates, important to elections. You can just store all kinds of information in there. The other tip I would give, our primaries are in March. It's horrible outside in March. How many people want to knock doors in January? I mean, we were really blessed this year with our race in Bolingbrook. We had phenomenal weather. We had 70-degree days in February. That is unheard of here in Illinois. So if you really can't get out there and knock on all those doors to remind those solid Ds to vote and let them know who you're endorsing, write them a letter. Spend $100 every 2 years. Send a letter to all of your solid Ds that always vote in the primaries. Some basic information about Election Day and how to get involved. And on the back, I just take a sample ballot, the one that the county clerk sends out, and I darken the ovals and I write sample on it and I put some little arrows on it and photocopy that, put it in an envelope and send it out. And for me, because of my job, sometimes that's the only thing I can do in a wintertime primary because I'm on the road. So I've got some of these samples here. If anybody ever needs help with stuff like this, this is not difficult. This is not rocket science. I'm more than willing to help you, and I'm sure your township chair would be too. Last but not least, I guess the last thing I would say is if you're going to take this role on, you're going to put your name on the ballot or you're going to ask to be appointed, you better do the job. I want you to do the job. Because if you think you're helping the party by just taking a seat and keeping it warm, you're not helping the party, you're hurting the party. You're hurting the very candidates you want to help by sitting in a seat and not doing anything. That's the part that really bothers me about what happens. And I understand the fear of rejection. The first couple of times I went out knocking doors, I had a guy come to the door, was talking to his wife, having a great conversation. The husband came to the door, saw my Barack Obama button. Get out of here, you Obama lover! Bam! Slammed the door right in my face while his wife's standing there. He don't know me. That wasn't about me. That was him. He's the one with the anger issue and the problem. So don't take those kind of rejections personally. There's another door to knock on. There's 1,200 of them in your precinct. You got plenty of doors to knock on. Just don't go back to that house. I've got one on one of my blocks. I never knock on the door. Twice now, the guy was just rude and horrible to me. I don't even knock on his door. I know where the house is. I don't go there. It shows up on my list. He votes Democrat. I'm not going to his door. He's a jerk. I don't need that kind of treatment. It's a volunteer job.
Right.
Have you ever noticed the jobs that don't pay are the hardest ones? Think about school board, precinct committeeman. I mean, geez, oh Pete, these are not easy jobs. And they don't pay. So, I mean, that's the, and then just, you know, if you're gonna do it well. If it's worth doing well, and get some help. So those are my tips and my little bit of my experience, and I'm sure that we have lots more here.
I've got a bit more, but a lot of it overlaps with
It's
Jackie.
okay. Go ahead.
Once you become a precinct committee person, and I believe most people here intend to do so, you are the representative of the Democratic Party in your precinct. You're the face of the party. And your job is to promote the candidates of the party and, of course, to see that they're elected to the extent that you can. You can be granted authority to access Vote Builder, or the VAN, as it's also known, which is a voter activation network. It's a database that gives you an opportunity to identify the voters in your precinct that you wish to contact. Vote Builder identifies voters by party affiliation according to the party's ballot that the voter pulls in primary elections. According to the mix of ballots that they have voted in a succession of primary elections, the network can identify them in descending order as strong Democrats, leaning Democratic, independent, leaning Republican, strong Republican, impossible to reason with Republican, too-late advisor, or Russian intelligence agent. Actually, those last three I just made up. There's only so much that you can infer from what kind of primary ballot gets pulled. But you can use that database to customize walk lists for your precinct according to the criteria that you specify for selection. And of course, with that, you can get the name, address, gender, age, telephone number when it's available. And as Jackie said, you can also feed information back into the network as you gather it from the people that you contact. And that will allow you to contact them either by means of knocking on their door or by telephone bank. The first thing you should do when you're canvassing is have a message prepared for when the voter answers either the door or the phone. It should include an introduction of yourself and whom you represent, your objective, and an invitation to the voter to join in that effort. For instance, in my case, if I was canvassing for a particular candidate, I would say, "Hi, my name is John Sanchez." Often I'll tell them I live right around the corner from here. I'm your Democratic Precinct Committeeman here in Precinct 5, and I'm contacting you on behalf of whatever the candidate's name is. We would like to see him elected to a particular office for his or her ideas on an issue or position on the question or ability to perform, you know, whatever messaging that candidate wants to get across. And then you want to keep it short enough to comfortably state it before the voter feels a need to respond. And then when your message is delivered, invite their response with a question such as, have you considered voting for this candidate? Are you committed to voting in the upcoming election? In the event of a positive response, go further. Ask them for more support. Ask if they'd accept a yard sign, or ask them if they'd like to volunteer on behalf of the candidate or on behalf of the party and join you as a volunteer in the precinct. Let's see, where was I? Oh, if they're a strong Democrat or if they respond positively to, well, yeah, I just mentioned that. Okay, in organizing your precinct, you'll find it helpful to have volunteers from the precinct available to expand the area that can be covered. As Jackie mentioned, you could have 1,200 doors in your precinct, and it's probably 3 or 4 pairs of shoes if you're going to knock all of them. So try to get volunteers to help you out in that effort, and it will expand the area that you can cover. There have been occasions too when I've had kids, I've paid kids to go around and blanket the precinct hanging door knockers. And you know, at a nickel a piece, you can get it done reasonably. As precinct committee person, I should point out too, when you have those volunteers, you'll be the authority that directs them on behalf of the party. Meeting attendance, both for the township and the county central committee, of which you will also be a member as a precinct committee person. While it's not essential, it's recommended, especially for precinct committee people. This keeps the committee person up to date on who is running for what their positions are on the issues, what events are transpiring in the near term, And it also keeps them abreast of any all-hands-on-deck issues, such as recent efforts to turn away Republican efforts to deny health insurance to millions of people so that they could grease their financial support base. As a precinct committee person, you will also participate in caucuses for slating candidates for municipal, township, and county board offices, as well as coordinating with other townships to slate candidates for General Assembly offices. In terms of our monthly meetings in Frankfort Township, I understand that many of us got involved in the party, not because we felt we weren't walking enough, but rather due to concerns over points of policy. Right now I'm considering including a discussion hour after we adjourn our regular business with our township meetings, where one or another policy topic will be discussed for that time. And if we wish, then we can, input our opinion on that policy as a group to whatever office holder may be involved. Well, one of the more important meetings for precinct committee people to attend is the county organization's caucus and convention following each primary election. At that meeting, as an elected precinct committee person, in your role as central committee members, you'll vote for the county organization's executive board with a vote that's weighted with the number of Democratic ballots that were pulled in that primary election that had you elected as precinct committee person.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
Can you set a proxy? Do we know?
I don't
Do
believe
you have to
so.
be there in person? It's kind of the way I remember it. I wasn't sure. Okay.
So, in any event, we all have our individual approaches to organizing our precincts and connecting with the voters therein. But I hope this little review may have offered a point or two of value to those who have that as their task. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I guess I'm next.
Yes.
Well, first I'll plug the, this 4-page thing that was given to me when I got elected. Had to come out of the organization somewhere, Democratic Precinct Committeeman Basics.
That's the one I handed out, so, yeah.
Oh.
There's some extra ones up here, so
Okay, anyway, it's
it's a good one.
publication.
Yeah.
Tells you just what it says, the basics. So 2 years ago, I became a precinct committeeman and read that stuff and all the other stuff and go out knocking on doors. Well, nobody's home or they don't answer the door. It's kind of discouraging. So about 6 months ago, my friend Carl and I were kicking this around. He's a DuPage County precinct committeeman. And we thought we should try a newsletter approach. So I whipped up a newsletter.
Yes. Awesome.
Simple, 1 page on each side. Not real professional looking, but I didn't want it professionally looking because I think that makes it go to the garbage can quicker. So I print these on my laser printer, old printer, but it prints cheap. And I can print this for 2 cents,
Very cool.
including the paper. So anyway, I go out and I go to every house in the precinct. If it's a strong Democrat or a leading Democrat, I knock on their door and try to talk to them. Of course, they aren't home anyway. So I leave it, and I leave it at every other house that I walk by. This first one I did, which was in the summertime, 1 page is all about the state budget impasse and how ridiculous it is. Then I included who our representatives are, and their phone numbers and email addresses, and et cetera, hoping someone would contact them. And on the other side, I did a little rant about healthcare, pushing the single-payer option. And again, I gave the contacts to contact, and then I had about a third of a page on voting, just how easy it is in Will County, and how you get registered or check your registration and early voting and all that stuff.
Very good.
The next one I did just recently was Make America Great Again. You do that with all the good things like Medicare for all, minimum wage, the living wage, all of that stuff.
Good job.
Then on the other side, a little bit about the upcoming primary, a plug for the Wheatland Township Democrats, also a plug for the event that was Sunday, Meet the Candidates event, and a plug for the Will County Progressives.
Yay!
And I distributed this to about half of the precinct. The other half is not going to do without, I'm going to edit it a little bit, take out the event that's past due, replace that with something else, and hopefully get it to most of the rest of the precinct.
Great job. Bob, would you be willing to like share your newsletters?
Oh, sure.
Because I, for one, would find that very helpful. Now, I might not have time to knock on everybody's door, but I could put it on my Facebook page and then start a group on my Facebook page of just my neighbors in my precinct
Fantastic.
and make it like a private group.
Right. Of course, at the bottom I have a disclaimer that says, this newsletter is the opinion of Robert Segal.
Give it the weight that it deserves.
Well, I didn't want to imply that I was necessarily blessed by the Democratic Party.
Very good.
So that would be difficult. So anyway, I'm not sure if it's doing any good yet.
Well, you're new.
I did have a few comments on the first one from people I left them at, so that was encouraging.
A couple of our neighbors have mentioned it and have been out.
Yeah.
Very good.
Assume you include your contact information in there.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Bob, I've been the precinct committee woman in my current precinct now for pretty close to 9 years. And people are just, like, in the last few years, really realizing who I am. Seriously, like, when I see them on election day at the polling place, oh, hi, Jackie. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. But they know who I am. And so, you know, it takes time to build that.
Well, yeah, and it's something I'm going to put in the next one is some article about, you know, if you're a Democrat, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Because a shocking number of people would say, oh, you mean there's other Democrats in this area? It's just unbelievable.
If your area is red enough, you might be well advised to carry smelling salts in case they pass out when they find out.
Well, actually, let's see, we're 56% Republican, 44% Democrat.
In your precinct.
In my precinct.
Very good.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Yeah, it's good to know your numbers. It is good. Gives you some confidence and a goal.
Right. I'm going to training tomorrow.
The last election results are on the clerk's website. And if you go there to the previous elections results, you can go by precinct and you can go by race, like president, county board. So you can kind of get an idea. They have colored maps even. So like if I pull up County Board District 4, that's my district, I can see that I won every single one of my precincts, sans one. The one precinct I lost was where my opponent ran against me. He lives there. I won that precinct in the mayoral race, by the way. So go figure. So you can look up the different races and you can see not only like a colored map with each precinct, but you can pull up the statistics for that particular race. So you can see the percentage. I think I won like by 75% of the vote or 90% of the vote. I don't even remember the numbers anymore. I'm not a numbers person. I appreciate the fact that you are. But I do know it's important, and you should at least review it every once in a while. And so you can see that for every single race, every single precinct, and you literally can pull that up from the clerk's website.
The county clerk's website.
For all the past elections.
I can proudly say that my precinct voted for Hillary and Jim Walz,
There you go.
I know that you're.
among others. Well, Jackie, John, and Bob, you've covered it all, so I guess I'll have a pop here and just chill and listen to questions.
No, you're not getting off the hook because you need to repeat. What I have learned is people don't learn stuff on the first time around. You got to tell them multiple times before they figure it all out.
Well, first of all, I want to say I'm really glad to see so many of you here tonight. And you're here because apparently you want to be precinct committee people and want to know what it entails and how to do it. So having that kind of motivation to come out on Friday night, some of you have been working all day probably, is pretty phenomenal. And I know a lot of you, I'm just preaching to the choir because I know a lot of you in this room already. Ron over here and the Myers and all that. So I know a lot of you are pretty savvy politically already. But maybe I can provide you a little more motivation or a little bit more information about it, about the job that they haven't covered, although, or at least emphasize it. Jackie was kind of talking about, and I think Bob to a certain extent too, that how shocked people seem to be that there are Democrats in Will County. And that has been going on for a while, but I first came here to Will County in the year 2003. Because of my job, I wasn't allowed to get involved with politics until about 2008. And then I retired. And I said, you know what, I got to get into the fray here. I'm so tired of listening to people who make public policy, and when I know a lot more about some of this stuff than they do, and I want to make public policy. So in 2008, I started getting involved. But prior to that 2003, first thing I heard about Will County, I live in Plainfield. First week I'm there. You know, Plainfield used to be a stronghold of the KKK. Did you know that? And everybody's so happy about that. I'm thinking, oh, really now? It's going to be interesting for a guy who's part black and part Italian and part Scandinavian, how I'm going to fit in here, or if I'm going to fit in here. Because this seems to be the first thing everybody wanted me to know, that there used to be a KKK place. And then I saw all these Republicans around, and the whole township is controlled by Republicans, and the village board is controlled by Republicans, and the school board is controlled by Republicans. I'm thinking, damn, are there any Democrats here other than myself and possibly my wife, who used to be a Republican? So,
It's okay. It's okay. I voted for Ronald Reagan in 1980.
I did once, I voted for Nixon the first time.
So I got a little feisty about it because I really believe in what Democrats used to be, and I think are starting to come around to being again, more like FDR-ish instead of being Republican-lightish, and progressive and that sort of thing. And so I live in a part of the township and the district where Democrats were afraid to run for anything. And I'm getting tired of hearing about only Republicans filing for public offices, from precinct committeeman on up to the governorship. And so there's no challenger to the Republican in my district for the county board. And I said, well, I'll be damned if I'm just going to hand over an office to these Republicans. So some of us have got to get involved in here and jump into the fray. And so I opened up my big mouth enough about it that I wound up running for the office. And when I was campaigning in District 5, which is the most extreme northwestern corner of this county, I'm knocking on doors and telling people, yeah, I'm a Democrat, I'm running for the job. Oh, really? And then they almost confessed to me, like in secret, yeah, I'm a Democrat too. And I found a lot of that. I said, there's a lot more Democrats out here than what these Republicans realize. And we have to tap into them and get them organized. And we have to have some motivated people to do that. And that most certainly is precinct committee people. I really think that at the precinct committee level, that's probably the most dynamic, and really, even though you don't have a lot of political power, you can't make public policy, you can really influence it because you influence the people in your precinct. You can tell them, I think it was maybe John made the point that, let them know, I just live around the corner here, I'm one of your neighbors. That gives you some credibility right there that, oh, you have enough good taste to live in the same neighborhood I do. Maybe I'll listen to you, and then you start giving them your spiel that I'm your precinct committee person here. There are Democrats here, and we need to get organized and work together. And then Jackie was mentioning that you have access to special tools, one of which is that vote builder. And you need to strategically plan your contacts with people in your precinct. And it's so nice to have that because once you get the training on that database system, you can identify all the Democrats or kind of Democrats in your precinct, so it can make it easier on you. You won't get so much abuse, notwithstanding what Jackie's experience was with this one Democratic guy. But typically, you have the confidence, if you're a little shy about approaching people for the first time and knock on the door, at least you can know, you're armed with information. You know something about them already, and they don't know that you know it. You know that they're a Democrat, or you know their wife's a Democrat, or their kids are Democrats. So you should be kind of on friendly territory right there to help bolster your self-confidence. You don't have to go to a hardcore Republican unless you just blindly knock on the door and you've not done your homework first. So it's nice to have that access to Vote Builder. And quite frankly, especially if you have an activist chair for your township central committee, you can get a training session in your township. The state party is willing to send people up here to train you. Dan Kovatz is the director of the state party, and if you can arrange to have some computer lab facility, like a local public college or whatever that's got a computer lab, you can get it set up, and you can get an instructor. It's just, I guess, that there's a lot of our townships where there isn't an activist chair or maybe a very strong Democratic organization, and so they don't have the training. But it's not impossible. It can be done. I've arranged 2 or 3 of them in the last 18 months myself, because I'm the chair of the Plainfield Democrats. Another thing I want to talk about, which I think is a perk of the situation, is our position being a precinct committee person, is that it gives you access to a lot of the candidates. And they start getting to know you by name because they know you have some kind of influence. Sometimes they don't want to know you and don't want to work with you, but they know it's probably a smart idea for them to do so. So you get a little chance to have a little influence with them as to how what their platform is going to be, what their position is going to be, or with somebody running for re-election, trying to let them know how you feel about a certain issue that they might be voting on. So you get kind of a little bit of an insider power there if you become a precinct committee person. And I think that's a pretty neat thing, because you've got people who make the public policy, you got their ear. I've talked to people from Bill Foster to Dick Durbin to even Barack Obama as a precinct committee person. And I'm thinking, ooh, I'd be able to talk to all these people. I'm just a little Reed Bible from Minneapolis, Minnesota, moved here some years ago. But I've had the ear occasionally of some of these people. I'm not going to say I can get on the phone and talk to Barack and say, hey, Barry, how's it going today? But maybe I can talk to my Will County board member, or my state legislator, even one that's not mine, I've made her mine, Natalie Manley's mine, even though I don't live in her district, because I've got Mark Batnick, who's a Republican.
The bat.
But the bat, yeah. But so that's one of the neat things that I want to encourage you to run for this position. And it's not that hard. The nuts and bolts of it are these. One, you have to file signature nominating petitions. And there's a special form for that, which you can get from our Will County clerk. And all you need is 10 signatures to get on the primary ballot. Now, I wouldn't stop at that, because some signatures might turn out to be not so good. You probably should get 30. And yours counts. You can sign the petition for yourself, or your spouse, or your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whatever. It doesn't take long. You can get 30 signatures in a few minutes, and they don't have to be forged. So you knock on someone's neighbor, stuff like that. So you file that petition, or I think there's 10 signatures to a form. Get 3 of those babies, put them together in the right form, put your declaration of candidacy, that's another form you have to put in there. And then you have an optional form that you're a loyal American. You don't even have to put that in there if you don't want to. If you're running for a different office, there's an economic interest form that you'd have to fill out, but on this level you don't have to. So you get all those things together and you make sure you get them filed by December 4th. I think you can't file before November 27th, but you can't file any later than December 4th. Where do you file it? Nancy Schultz-Voot's office, the Will County Clerk. If you have any questions as to the technical things you have to do, can somebody sign in crayon on my petition, whatever, you can just call up here or write over here.
That's the website, and they actually have a sample packet there.
Yeah, in fact, the packets are available to you.
The packets are there, but
We
the
have
sample
packets
is
here.
We printed those out, so we have them here. If anybody wants them, we'll pass them around. Or
But there's a sample all filled out in red ink, and I thought it was kind of funny that it was red ink and they were all Republican. But we'll get past that, because we're going to have a Democrat in that seat next time around. But right at that website, and that's the same website where you can get the information on past elections.
Yeah.
It's a little clunky, the website, you got to click around a bit, but it's all there.
Yeah, and then there's an email address for the county clerk's office. It's this one, elections@, that's supposed to be an ampersand, willcountyillinois.com, all together. So when you're running for this office, if you have a question and somebody whose opinion you don't trust, or trust rather, isn't around, and you want to get an authoritative answer, you can send an email question to this address. Probably Becky Gilliam over at the county clerk's office will answer it for you. Or you can call the county clerk or just stop in and talk to somebody in her elections division. And they'll give you plenty of help. Nancy Schultz-Voot's happens to be a Republican, but there actually are some nice Republicans, and she's one of them. And she's very helpful on these things.
And her staff is
Her staff is
fantastic.
excellent, right? Yeah, they're excellent staff. So, and then if you want to get some real authoritative stuff, like a question that's been going around is, well, can you sign the petitions of 2 or more people who are running for the same office from your party? And you want an authoritative answer, you can pose that to the State Board of Elections. And this is their website. Or you can just call them. This is the Chicago number, and this is the Springfield number. But that website that they've got is really good. There's all kinds of stuff on there. You can get what the geographical boundaries are of your precinct, or districts, who your legislators are, who's donating to their campaigns, and all kinds of stuff. So there's even a candidate guidebook that you can get. Download it, it's free. And it'll give you step-by-step instructions on how to run for any political office in the state, from governor all the way down. And so I just wanted to put these 2 pieces of information for you. It's not hard to run for precinct committee person. Typically, you're not even going to have a challenger. But if you do, so what? That's what democracy is about. You know, let the primary electors decide who they want representing them. And just to give you some idea what you'd be getting into, what your role is. Hey, I have it written down. I'm going to tell you what you're doing. I'm going to try to do real quick, not boring about this. But you are, as John said, you are the representative of the Democratic Party for all the people in your precinct, particularly the Democrats in your precinct. And you'll know who they are because you'll have access to Vote Builder and be able to know who they are. You might even be able to find out some kinky stuff about their lives that you know. But you're not supposed to use Vote Builder that way. You're supposed to be using it for political purposes. So don't use it to be a gossip. And for God's sakes, don't share your personal information with other people. You're supposed to be developing relationships with your fellow Democrats in your precinct. So you want to be about that. You want to encourage them to support our Democratic candidates for office. So you're a source of information. Like Bob here, he's chosen to do a newsletter. And that's a great way of doing it. But that's an obligation you have. You need to be a source of information for your fellow Democrats. Who's running for what? What might be their position on something? Where do I go to vote? Where's my precinct? When can I vote? Can I vote early? When, if I can, when? And you also become a deputy registrar after you've been trained. And I think it's like a couple of hours. It's pretty good training. It's not really hard. But you then become a deputy registrar. So you're empowering people to vote. And you know what, there's a lot of senior citizen places in my neck of the woods where those people love it when I come in there. It's not because I'm bringing donuts and coffee for them, but because they feel like they're forgotten and that their votes don't count. And then there you are getting them registered to vote. And there's a cache of votes in those places. But it also could be your next door neighbor. And that's quite an awesome power that you can register somebody to vote. And you have that authorization to do that. You can't be partisan when you're doing it, though. Yes.
We just passed the automatic voter registration law. Does anybody know?
When does that start?
Yeah, well, that's kind of what my question is, and how many years will have to go by? Because I can't remember how
Before it
long it
gets
is for
really
your
built up.
driver's license.
Yeah.
Is it 4 years for a driver's license?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would be at least
So
4
you're
more
80
years
years.
before that is fully in effect.
And that is only, I mean, what if you don't have a driver's license? Do they also do IDs? Non-driver IDs?
Yeah, if they have a state ID, they can get registered then, but if they totally are off the grid, and maybe only have a veteran's card or something, then I guess we'll still have a need for voter registrars.
I think we will for a while,
Yeah.
before it gets really.
And then there's still
Just kinda
people that
wondering
move.
How long?
If you move, then you gotta,
Well, you're supposed to go get a new, when you move, you're supposed to go get a new driver's license anyway, you're supposed to update it, so you automatically get re-registered again.
Good luck with that, right?
I don't know about your precinct, but in my precinct, I find people that are still registered in Chicago. They've lived in Bolingbrook for 10 years, and their voter registration is still in Chicago. It's just weird. People
they
have
do
that
not vote
loyalty to
then?
their old neighborhood.
They're
Do they go to
probably
Chicago to vote?
Yeah, they go all the way to Chicago to vote,
Probably
or they
getting
go.
visits from the precinct
Or vote by
commission.
And some of them are still very involved in their churches in the city, so they go back regular, or they vote absentee, but they're still registered in Chicago. I was quite surprised.
Yeah, there's some of that. Almost everybody I've met out here came here from Chicago.
Chicago, yeah.
So you'll be running into that. But some of the other things, like I think John mentioned that you will also be voting for whoever is the county central committee chair right after the primary. It'll be like a week after the primary. That's when you get elected, is in the primary. I know I was a little confused about that the first time I ran for a precinct committee person. I said, okay, if I go in the primary and I win that, do I have to go into the general election? Well, the answer is no, because that's the big event for a precinct committee person. You are partisan. You are running to be the representative of the Democratic Party in your precinct. You're not going to be up against somebody else in the general election. You just
Well,
need to win the primary.
When somebody runs against you in the
Yeah,
primary.
then you do.
Well, then you have a contest.
No, if you win the general number of votes, the majority of votes, you won. You are the precinct committee person. You're done after the primary election. If you get the most votes,
Right.
you are the precinct.
You don't
committee
have to
person.
run against a Republican for the office.
Right, exactly. We are in a closed primary state, so only Democrats are supposed to be voting in that primary. So-
Reed, you mentioned, how we vote for these other offices, so let's talk about that a little bit. So the election's in March for precinct committeeman. In April, in general, there's a caucus in each township, and there are 24 townships in Will County. Each township, the precinct committeemen that were just elected are invited to a meeting where they choose a chair for their township party, as well as an executive board.
Yes.
And then later that month,
Only the elected precinct.
only elected precinct committee, not appointed. Then later, I think later that same month, towards the end of April, there's a county-wide caucus where every elected precinct committeeman is invited, and they vote for the county-wide elected officials for the Democratic Party. So the chair right now is Scott Piles.
And that's where you have your weighted votes.
Mhm.
and that's
Yeah.
really big this year.
Yeah, that will be a big thing this year. And so some of you that you might find you only have 55 votes that you can cast because only 55 people came out to the primary in your precinct, and another precinct might have had 2,500 Democrats come out, and that precinct committee person has a weighted vote of 2,500 votes that he can cast. You can't split them either. It's got to vote them all up for one person.
And the two,
Knocking on doors enhances that number,
right.
so.
And the two most heavily Democrat townships in Will County are DuPage Township, which is like Bolingbrook, Romneyville, and Joe.
And what I want to emphasize is that I like to look at trends. It's nice to look at the past, see how you did back then, but that's prelude to the present, and I like to look at trends. And I think that Democrats, we are trending. And a prime
Yes.
example of that is Ms. Jackie Черnier over here on my left. She came this close to becoming the next mayor of Bolingbrook. And she probably would have had it. And that's a kind of an off presidential election year. That's kind of what got me to in my reelection bid. The Democrats just didn't come out. They thought that, oh, I'm the only Democrat on the planet. And so that sort of discourages them. So if we have some activist precinct committee people that can let these Democrats out there know, no, there are Democrats here, I think it will encourage them to come out even in a non-presidential or midterm election year. And instead of just having county-wide office Democrats where we dominate, thank God, but on the county board too, and in the village halls and the township halls as well. I don't believe in total one-party control, but that's what I've been living in Plainfield for the last 17 years, and I'm tired of it. By the way, I did get elected to the county board then. I was the first Democrat ever to be elected from that district. I was stunned. Here in KKK Central. And then next door to me, in the district next door to me, another Democrat, Mark Ferry, was elected to the board. I did not get reelected, but it's only because we did not come out. I know if we do come out, we can control stuff.
Yeah.
So, and you guys are the prime motivators on that kind of stuff.
Reed,
So,
do we want to take some questions?
yeah.
Quick question.
Curtis.
Do we want to do Larry first and then questions, or do we want to do questions and then Larry? We're going to do questions and then Larry, because Larry's going to talk you through the nuts and the bolts of how to get on the ballot and how to run. So go ahead with your questions. with
Any
these
questions,
folks.
you guys?
I think Curtis had a question here.
So so I'm running, like I said, for your precinct.
Yes.
If someone's challenging me, how and when will I know?
When, last day of filing. Everybody's got to be filed by December 4th.
So where do I go to find that information?
County clerk's
County
office.
clerk's
County clerk's
website.
office. So that's on the 4th. So on the 5th, I walk in and find out if I have a challenge.
You could probably find out on the website, and you can probably find, well, no, they don't have to announce polling for packets.
Right.
Yeah, but it'll be, I would imagine the clerks just email.
If you work in your precinct, you'll be bumping into us.
That's true. I don't know, 1,200 houses.
Yes, ma'am, go here.
For signs on precinct committeeman petition, do they have to, do the signatures have, the signees have to live in this precinct?
Good question.
Or do they have to be
Good
registered
question.
in the precinct?
They have to live in, they have to be residents of the precinct.
But
And registered.
as part of this precinct?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
You do not have to be a registered voter to pass a petition, but you must be a registered voter to sign a petition.
But they have to be registered as voters in this precinct?
If you're running for precinct committeeman, yes. Where do you live, ma'am? What
I'm
town?
not running for committee.
What town do you live in?
Joliet.
Okay, I live in Bolingbrook. I cannot sign your petition. I can only sign or get signers in my own precinct.
But my question is, I have some new neighbors moving in the neighborhood, and I'm sure that if they're registered at their old address, they haven't changed it yet. So can they sign this petition?
They can sign it, but by the time you turn it in, if they are not registered in that precinct, if nobody objects, then it's fine. But if somebody looks at your petition and you have competition, and they say, oh, these 3 people aren't registered voters in this precinct, they can have you thrown off the ballot.
That's why you want to get more than 10 signatures.
Yeah.
on your petition.
If a tree falls in the forest and nobody hears it, did it make any noise?
And you want to get them signed the way they signed their voter's registration card.
Very important.
Yeah.
And Larry's probably going to talk about that.
Sign,
Yeah.
not print. Not print, sign.
Some of the nursing homes in the
Not putting enough space.
That's all before. That's the whole process. For instance, I know, then at Craig, Sunny Hill, really takes care of having ballots sent out. And she looks for volunteers to help with that voting process with the residents. And I know that at Falls, they actually have a polling site there. But again, they need people to come in ahead I've done it where residents will come up and show their voter card, you know, am I qualified to vote and stuff. So, those nursing homes need volunteers to help with that whole process.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Two questions. The newsletter that you do, how do you, what do you do? Leave it in their door?
Yes.
Okay, and are you planning on doing that during election time instead of knocking on the door?
Well, I knock on the door of no Democrats,
Okay,
and I leave it at every other door that I go by.
gotcha. Okay, that's a great idea, by the way.
Not
The other
mailbox.
thing is how does the party, how do you target the students in high school that are going to be turning 18? What's the collection data for those students? How is this party gonna grab those voters?
The party doesn't do anything,
Yeah.
okay? Now, in some school districts,
They do the registration.
they bring somebody in from the township clerk's office and they do some voter registration. I know in the past in Bolingbrook, the Democrats have tried to get into the high schools and we've been rebuffed every single time. But here this last year, somebody's heart softened for a minute because we had a township of two or three township people go in from the Democratic side and register voters. I think they did it in conjunction with the Republican Party in town. So they had somebody from each party there, and I think that's why they allowed it. But going forward, again, with this automatic voter registration, I would think in a couple more years, I don't know how that's gonna work for the young people, because they get their license at 16,
Yeah.
but
Voter registration, without regard to your party affiliation, is supposed to be conducted in a nonpartisan way.
you can't register someone to vote while distributing literature for a candidate or getting signatures on a petition. So the other day, when I was knocking on a door and I ran across a lady who's registered in Chicago but's lived in Bolingbrook 9 years, she gave me her phone number and I said, I'll call you, I'll make an appointment, I'll come back, I'll register you to vote here in Bolingbrook.
When I went to training for voter registration at Will County, I was the only one there that was not a teacher. Lincoln Way system, they had a number of teachers there actually to do training. And part of the thing that I did during the last primary is I went around to all the Lincoln Ways with brochures and left about 50 brochures at each Lincoln of the 4 Lincoln Ways to make sure that they, at the offices, to let them know that their kids were eligible to register to vote in March for if they would be at least 18 by November of
Right.
that year. See, so, but our district is, that just speaks for the Lincoln Way High School district. Yeah, I know they were taking an active stance.
But there's no coordinated effort by the party on anything.
But there should be. Aurora has teachers that are voter registers. I always had them in my classrooms. I taught at the high school there. She'd try to go out to as many classrooms as people could whenever she had a free period. Most high school history teachers would love to have somebody come in. And there's lots of other teachers too. You've just got to find a connection. And once you find it at the high school, keep it.
See, now,
But
my
that's
experience
really
in my district was I tried to get into the schools myself. And I explained to them that I can't be partisan about this. I got to be nice about this, and everybody, I register everybody. And they would not cooperate with me. And I got 3 different stories as to why they wouldn't let me in to do it. And finally, I got a call from the superintendent of the school system because I was getting a little heated about it and saying, look, you guys need to pick an excuse and stick with it. And I'm getting tired of this because it seems to me that you lean Republican. And oh, no, it's not that. No, you know, now we're required to teach civics in Illinois, which they should have been teaching all the while. And our teachers actually take them down to the computer lab and register them online. So I started asking students, have you ever been taken down to the computer lab and registered online to vote? You 17-year-olds who will be 18 by election time? No, and one of them is my granddaughter, so she probably wouldn't have lied to me, although she's probably motivated to occasionally lie to me about something, but not about voting. And so I couldn't buy it. So I've asked Sean Walsh, who's the regional superintendent, can we work something out where maybe you can get something coordinated with the schools? And his answer was, well, I really don't have authority about that, but I'll look into it, which means I'll never hear from him. And, but this is something that maybe our county chair, currently it's Scott Piles, hopefully that won't be the case after March, but currently it's Scott Piles.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, exactly. And he can get a program together where he works on this, coordinating the. Or she, get these 17-and-a-half-year-olds and 18-year-olds registered to vote in the high schools.
What you want to do is you want to go in and get kids to vote, try to get them the importance of voting, because over in Aurora, where I was, very few of their parents voted.
Yeah, that's what civics is supposed to teach them, how important this is.
You know, they need a name and a face and somebody. Now, I think it wasn't, Nikola was involved with the Bernie. We had high school students from Nikola that wanted to be part of the Bernie thing last spring.
Well,
I mean, there are pockets.
some organization within the school.
Yeah.
I think
So
we
the
probably
more
ought
you
to,
can get, the better.
There's another approach to neutralizing political bias in the schools, and that is to get progressives elected to the school boards.
yeah.
I'm proud to say
Yeah.
we did crack the combination of District 210 in this past election by getting one of our own, Beth Janice Doyle, elected as a school board member.
See how important it is at the local level for us to take control? Forget about the national level. This is the level where it's happening, what you guys are doing.
Yeah, this is where it happens. With that said, Larry, do you want to take over and talk about getting on the ballot?
No problem. Thank you, everybody.
Oh, one more point about Vote Builder. There's also a version of it that you can use a smartphone to access.
Yes.
So you can just carry it right around.
Minivan.
It's called minivan, and you don't need all this paper.
Now,
You
you
can-
our board, you guys
You
aren't
can
meeting
carry it
right now.
around your
You can
precinct
answer
if
some
you're not
questions when
meeting
Larry's
to have a
done.
flip phone.
So these folks will still be here, you can come talk to them individually after we're done. But Larry's gonna kind of give you the nuts and bolts of how do you do it? How do you get elected a precinct committee person? It's very easy, but it's got some really picky details, and Larry's gonna share them with you.
First, I want to say thank you for everyone who has presented tonight. Jackie, Bob, John, and Reed. A round of applause for them. So as you already heard, there's a little bit of paperwork involved with getting on the ballot and becoming a precinct committee member. It is the petition packet. We have copies up here. Who did not grab a copy that would like one? That's not nearly enough hands. Everybody should have their hands up. You should all want to do this.
We've already
All right, great. So we do have extra copies. We also have separate copies of the petition sheet itself. Briefly, to get on the ballot, you need to fill out everything on here, and you need 10 signatures. We recommend 20 to 30. As you heard, there can be a petition challenge. We'll talk about that at a later point. We also did talk about that last month. The video is online, so if you want to take a more in-depth look at the petition packet procedures, we discussed it. But basically, if a signature gets deemed invalid, that can get thrown off. And if you get below 10 signatures, your name will not appear on the ballot. So we always recommend get some extra just so that your petition will be valid. So we have some blank sheets as well if you need those. So the first page here is the statement of candidacy. This is the page that says, I am declaring I'm a candidate for this office. The information here is also available on the website, the Will County Clerk's website. It's a PDF where you can fill it in, make it look all nice and printed, but you can fill out this way too. At the very top, there's some boxes for your name, your address. The office would be Precinct Committeeman. That's defined by the state law as committee man. Sadly, it's behind the times, but that's how you would fill out the paperwork. Everything you fill out has to be very specific and very detailed. You want to make sure everything is correct. So when you're going through for office, you're going to put precinct committeeman. District would be whatever township you live in and the precinct number. So in my case, I live in New Lenox, precinct 14. I would write my name, my address, the office of precinct committeeman for the district of New Lenox, precinct 14. For a party, hopefully everybody here will be running for the Democratic Party. These are valid for Democratic or Republicans. If you are part of a different party in this county of Illinois, you are not eligible for this. So if you're interested in that, sorry. The next line is if you changed your name at any point in the last 3 years for any reason, you just put the name that you formerly were known as. And what I should say about writing your name is however you write your name on here is how it would appear on the ballot. So if you want to use a nickname or, well, I don't recommend a pseudonym. If you want to use the name here that is, people will know who you are and understand that this is how it's going to be. So if you put a nickname, a great example I use is Duffy Blackburn, the county auditor. It always says Kevin Duffy in parentheses Blackburn because his name is Kevin. It's very easy to fill this page out. Middle section, state of Illinois, county of Will. Obviously everybody lives in Will County. It says I blank, so you put your name, you put your address. You want to circle in the spot where it says city, village, unincorporated area. Circle which one applies to you. So if you live in the city of Joliet or the village of New Lenox or unincorporated Plainfield Township, let's say. Depending on where you live, that is how you fill that out. Your zip code, county of Will. You're declaring you're a qualified voter of the Democratic Party. And you're running for the office of precinct committeeman in the blank district. Again, that's the township and the number of your precinct. As you already heard, if you don't know what precinct you're in, you can find it on the Will County Clerk's website. You can also ask us later on, we can look you up. Let's see. You're requesting, this is the last sentence of this page. You're hereby request that your name be printed upon the official Democratic ballot. On the very bottom is the part for the notary. You need to get some of these pages signed, and we have multiple notaries here. We'll have notaries here every week, so if you have a question about that, just see us. You don't want to sign the bottom part until you're literally in front of the notary. Because when I put my stamp on this, I am certifying as a notary that you are the person signing this form. If you've pre-signed it, I can't notarize you. So if you are walking for yourself and precinct committeeman, if you're walking for any of the other candidates for any of the other offices, just understand, don't sign the bottom part until you're standing in front of the notary. Yeah.
And don't number the pages.
Correct. So we'll flip to the next page, which is the petitions, and we'll start with the question.
When I registered to vote a long time ago, when I moved out here 15 years ago, I did a very sloppy signature. Okay. It's not my normal fancy signature, so it's like I've got two signatures. Now when it comes to time of signing in front of you, should I use my signature that's my sloppy signature that they have on the voting records, or my more formal one?
Doesn't matter.
For that part, it doesn't matter. I need to see your ID, so I will know that you also print your name.
Yep.
So I, as the notary, will know that you are the person signing in front of me, declaring this is all true and all good.
But these actual forms, now, because originally it says sign your name, now you're saying we can print the name?
Well,
for the
depending on the form. So what Ron's talking about now is on the petition itself, which is the second page, there is a revision to the way this looks. So if you go to the second page in the middle, it says the name, voter signature. On some of these forms, it has a new box that says voter's printed name optional. A lot of old forms did not have that box for the printed name, so we had to remind people, make sure you're signing your name, not printed. Some candidates are using the new style with both boxes, some are not, because these are recommended forms. But state law gives you flexibility as a candidate to print whatever you want. So it depends what the petition you have in front of you says. Now for this part though, on the petition itself, you want to have that voter sign it exactly as they signed their registration with the clerk's office, with that voter registration signature. Because what they can do at the end of this, after you've filed everything on December 4th, the public has a week to challenge any of your signatures, and they can pull the information they can pull your petitions you've turned in, and they can go through and say, this doesn't look good, I want to check this to try to kick this person off. If the signature doesn't match, or isn't close enough of a match, you may lose that signature. So it's important to try to get people to sign as they signed on the registration. Now, the question has come up before of, well, what if someone registered 20 years ago, they sign a lot, their signature has changed? Okay, well, you can tell them to go to the clerk's office and update that signature. But if they can't do that, try their best. Another tip, I'm sorry?
What is the date of the election?
The date of the election is March 20th, and that is just by state law. So on the top of the form, we'll start from the top here. It's got a blank for the party, again, Democratic Party, primary election, electors of the Democratic Party in whatever township and precinct number you live in. So for me, New Lenox 14 in the county of Will. Do hereby petition that name of the candidate, so your name would go on the third line there, that second space, who resides at, in this spot you put your address, circle whether you live in a city, village, or unincorporated, put your zip code, county of Will, Democratic Party, and you write the name again, to be voted for at the primary election held on March 20th, 2018. You want to also make sure you have the correct date. Challenges in the past have come up where they had the wrong date. It was the right date, wrong year. When their challenges are happening, they're going to look at every single thing. Now, this is not really that hard to fill out, but you want to be very specific. And one of the things that we've done, we've talked to election lawyers. We're going to try to have some here for the notary party on the night of November 24th. It'll just be during our normal socials, the night after Thanksgiving. The reason we're doing it that night, though, that following Monday is when you can start filing your petitions with the clerk. So we're going to have people here who are notaries. I'm going to try to have a couple of election lawyers to look over the paperwork. That way you will be able to have confidence in your paperwork when you go to turn it in. If there's any issues, you've got a week to try to correct everything. So in the middle section, each page has 10 signature lines. Again, you need 10 for committeemen. Grab an extra 1 or 2 of these so you can get 20, 30 signatures. Again, voter signature. You want to ask them, do you live at this house when you're not at their door? That way you're pretty confident that they're actually the person instead of someone just house sitting who lives in Indiana. You want to have them fill in their signature and their street address, the city, town, or village. If it's all the same, you can pre-fill that out. You can also fill in the county of Will yourself. If you download it from the clerk's website directly, the Will is filled in already. But you want to have them fill in as much as possible. Now, if you're at a door and someone says, my handwriting is terrible, can you fill the rest of this in for me? You can, but you want to be careful with that. If they can't read a signature, like mine is terrible, so if you just looked at my signature, you wouldn't know my name. But they can pull my registration card based on my address. So if the person's handwriting is legible, you can't read the signature, but you can read the address, have them fill it in. If they still say, it's just not going to be legible, you can fill their address in for them, but you don't want to do it for too many people because the challengers may try to get you on what's now known as a pattern of fraud. If too many things look like it's the same handwriting, they may question the entire sheet. So the answer is yes, you can fill in an address for someone, but don't unless they absolutely refuse to or are giving you a really hard time, and then try not to do it again on that page. The bottom is for the circulator themselves. For precinct committeemen, it's typically going to be yourself walking your own petitions. But let's say you're walking for any of the governor candidates, and if you are interested in getting with those campaigns, we know a lot of them are starting to do things in Will County. Let us know if there's some county board candidates or county-wide candidates you're interested in walking for. Let us know. We can put you in touch with all of these campaigns so you can help those people out. So the bottom of the petition here is going to be for whoever's filling out the petition themselves. The circulator's name is going to be you or the person walking on your behalf, and they're going to put their own information. So if there's someone, your cousin lives 2 blocks away, they would fill in their name, their address. The only place they would fill in for you is where it talks about you as the candidate. Jackie or someone else had mentioned, or, yeah.
I would like to point out, you must physically see the person sign it.
Yes.
Do not leave these petitions at a health club or a bar or a social club and just leave them out for people to sign.
Yes.
You must be in possession of that petition every time a signature goes on it if you are the circulator.
Right, so if you're at a party, if you're standing right at that clipboard the whole night, it'll be kind of boring as a party guest, but that's fine. But like Jackie said, don't leave it, go mingle and come back.
Yeah, it's one thing if you've left your petitions on your dining room table and you've got 5 house guests and they're all just signing and you maybe don't see them, that's fine. But don't leave it in a public place, a bar, a dry cleaner, anything like that, if you're not with it.
Right.
You will be thrown off the ballot. Somebody will turn you in.
Yes, they will read.
I also want to add to that, one spouse can't sign for another one.
No.
Like lots of times, a husband
right.
will say, my wife's in the shower, can I sign for her too?
No.
Right.
So, unless the spouse is unable to sign because she's handicapped or something.
Or let me take it in for her to sign.
Right, if someone says they want to take the petition in to have the other person sign, just ask if it's okay if you go with them. Because if you don't see the person physically sign the sheet, it is not a good signature for you. The last thing on this sheet at the very bottom, there is a spot for sheet number. Don't fill that out until the very end. Why? Well, because with petitions, again, you're going to need more than one sheet. If you're running a county board campaign and you're getting about 200 signatures, you're going to have 20 sheets. If you've got 6 friends that are helping you and they all write sheet number 1, you've got 6 different sheet number 1s. The sheets have to be turned in sequential order. So what you want to do is get all of the sheets together at the end, right before the filing time, and number them yourself in order 1 through 20 or whatever it is. So just tell your circulators, fill in the bottom part here, stop when they get to the notary part, and don't do anything below it.
But don't sign either.
Yeah, don't sign until you're in front of a notary, and do not fill out that sheet number until it's the very last moment and you're about to turn everything in. Are there any questions on this page? All right, a couple of tips that I've been told from some election lawyers: use blue ink. The reason for that is also you want to make a copy of your entire packet for yourself. The reason you want to use blue ink is you won't mistake the copy for the original. You have to turn in original signatures in order for it to be valid. And they said there was a challenge once where it took over 5 minutes to figure out, is this a live signature or is this a copy? They had each next to each other, the originals and the copies. They couldn't figure out which. So if you use blue ink, there's no question that it is a legitimate original.
For the signature.
For the signatures, yes, I'm sorry, good point. Another tip is to get your signatures notarized as soon as possible. As you've heard tonight, you can sign for any candidate in the Democratic Party. However, if you go to someone's door and they sign for you as a Democrat, then 3 weeks later their buddy who's a Republican comes to them and asks them to sign, only one of those is going to be valid. The way they figure out which one's valid is, well, which party did that person sign for first? Well, how the heck are we supposed to know? The date of the notary on that form is going to be the best indication, which is why if you have petitions, we are here every Friday. My stamp's in the car. Regina's got her stamp. If you get yours notarized tonight, let's say, you've got the date of tonight. If someone then signs for that, if that person then signs for a Republican in the end of November, they're out of luck. Your signature's good. Rebecca.
So that won't apply to us in terms of Republicans, because you're only running in the primary against Democrats. But if people get all excited and all want to be precinct committee people, and you have 2 Democrats running, how do they determine, so that basically if they get 2 signatures,
If
Actually,
it's-
you can sign for more than one Democrat,
You
so it
can
doesn't
sign,
matter.
it does matter for the primary. If you sign for multiple Democrats, that's fine.
Right.
Perfect example is my neighbors, nice people, very nice, I like them. Republican, that's fine, they signed for me. 2 years ago, I ran for precinct committeeman and county board. They signed my petitions.
So my point is,
For the
this won't
primary.
matter for the precinct committee ones.
It could,
How,
because if they signed, my Republican neighbors signed for me for precinct committeeman.
right?
If they sign for any Republican for any office during this
Ah.
same circulation period, that's when this comes into play.
Okay.
So you better served to go to voter.
Solid Dem
Your
houses.
absolute best shot is just the absolute Democrats. I think actually in my case, it was my county board petitions, when I didn't have access to that information yet, and I needed 200+ signatures, and I got into the game late because, again, like Reed had mentioned, it was an area where there were only Republican office holders, and I decided later on, hey, this is something I want to do. So I was about a month behind the times of the signatures, so it was also my first experience running. I didn't know a lot of the things that I've learned since then. So yeah, in the primary, this is exactly when it would be an issue, because you're not going to have signings for November, unless you're third party or independent, but we'll talk about that next summer. Susanna, a question?
Okay, so they do hundreds, if not thousands of petitions. So I'm just wondering what's gonna make them say, Bob Seville signed this person's petition, and then a couple weeks later, Bob Seville signed for the Republican petition. I'm wondering, why is Bob Seville so important?
Reed, do you want to take that?
Well,
Sorry, Bob.
first of all, it's probably not going to be an issue at this level of politics. This is the foothold into public office. It is a public office. And most people aren't going to care who who their precinct committee person is. They would care who governor is, or lieutenant governor, whatever, or who's on the county board. And so the other established party is going to do what they can to maintain power, control of that board. And they are going to see what Democrats, what vulnerabilities they might have. One of the things they love to attack are your petitions, attacking the validity of the signatures. The higher up the office, the more likely it is that that's going to be their strategy to attack it, to try to get you knocked off the ballot.
It's what happens in Bolingbrook every time.
Yeah.
We had 8 township candidates thrown off the ballot this last winter, and it was based on signatures. And they just did a really sloppy job of getting the signatures, and people's signatures didn't match. And they spent thousands of dollars trying to get.
Republicans win unopposed elections. It's the contested type that get a little iffy for them.
Right, and that's always been the problem in Bolingbrook, like running for any village office as well. The mayor will threaten them, and they back off because they don't want to hire a lawyer to, defend their petitions.
We did have that happen in Joliet in this last election.
Yeah, it
And I
happens.
was told when I ran, get double the signatures.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Wow.
again, for precinct committeeman, it's not likely that it's going to happen, but since many of you, hopefully, myself included, will be walking for congressional candidates, county-wides, governor candidates, we go over the information because it applies to all levels. The recommendation is always 3 to 4 times the required signatures is what you as a candidate should shoot for. Now, 4 times what you need for this is 40. Do you need 40? No. Is it good to get? Yeah, why not? Because you've met your neighbors. You really probably only need 20. But another tip that I learned at the Bolingbrook Resistance Fair, thank you, Jackie, for putting that on. Is, let's say you've got 20 signatures, but you're nervous. Are these going to be good? Well, what can you do? What you can do is you can contact the county clerk's office and set up a time where you can go in with your forms and you can pull the signatures. I haven't done it yet, I don't know all the details, but the election authorities have some type of computerized system where you can't take it with you, but you can view the signatures on the screen and you can kind of see for yourself ahead of time, this looks good, this one doesn't look good, I need to get a new signature. So I would recommend that probably the beginning of November, that way you've got a few weeks. If you're done with 30 signatures, but you only see 6 that really match, you got some issues with your neighbors, but you've got some time to get some more signatures out there. So that's something that I just learned a few weeks ago. Curtis?
So just on my own signature, I think the only time I ever signed a physical voter registration card was when I was 18, and I'm 31 now, and that's changed significantly. Can I go back in and re-sign?
Yes. And you should.
Reed talked about that earlier, I think it was Reed. Yeah.
Do they have to go back into Little County to do it, or do you just sign
No,
it?
you can do it with any voter registrar. If you got a
Yeah.
registration form here next month or next week, you can, you got a registrar here, they can re-sign.
Right, and like Jackie said, if you're at a person's door, and let's say they say they're not registered, or they even ask about the question, if you're a registrar, someone who can register voters, come back 5 minutes later, something Nancy had told me a while back, or like Jackie said, make an appointment, you take off that campaign hat, you put on the registrar hat, hi, I'm Larry, I understand you need to register to vote, how can I help you? Or if you want to just update a signature, you can do that as well. Once they get that done, it's not going to be a problem. John?
I asked Scott Pyle's question the other day, seeing that we have 2 Democratic candidates running in the primary for county clerk. I asked him if it was permitted to sign both and maintain a neutral stance before the primary. He advised against it. So you should only sign one or the other. And if you want to circulate petitions for both of them, you can do that, but what's advised is not to have both petitions on the clipboard at the same time. So you circulate one among one group of people, the other among another group of people, and you don't have matching signatures on both forms.
Right. So that kind of goes, so the law on this says, as long as the same party, you can sign for whomever. What that speaks to is likely this pattern of fraud concept. So what I would do with that is
And
if
he
I'm...
had his lawyer hat on.
And I'm not a lawyer,
Well, I am, and I know that you can sign for more than one person in the same party for the same office. It's not recommended.
Right.
But I can give you the statute that says it. Also, I talked to the state elections board, and they said the same thing. My interpretation is correct. I've not heard other people say, oh, no, you can't do that legally. That's not true.
And the question came up, actually I was in Springfield at the time, candidate's guide on the State Board of Elections website has that misprint in it where it says you're only allowed to sign for one person. So a candidate called me and asked me, because I tend to know a lot of that stuff, and I said, well, I'm pretty positive you can sign as long as the same party. They had been told otherwise, so I called the State Board of Elections. Because I'm the kind of nerd that has both of these phone numbers in my phone on speed dial. And they not only said, yes, you can sign it, they discovered that it was a misprint in the guide. What I would recommend is if you're walking your neighborhood, let's say you're going in a clockwise direction for Lauren Staley Ferry, get your signatures for her for county clerk. If you want to then circulate for Denise, go to the block, but go in a counterclockwise. You can get the same signatures, they're just in a different order. There's not going to be a pattern of fraud. You'll be fine. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but I think you should be okay because all this says is they're qualified to be able to vote.
You got 1,200 people in your precinct. Walk a different block.
Well, yeah, yes. If it's that big of a deal, go to a different block. But so because there's congressional district up north, I think it's 16, where there's upwards of possibly potentially 20 candidates for it.
Actually, it's District 6.
I always get those two mixed up. Okay, so in District 6, there's a lot of candidates. There's going to be overlap. No, the person asked me was 14. That was Jim Walsh. Everybody
Yeah, there's
pretty
2
much
and
knows
14.
Yeah, so the question,
Are
yeah,
there 4 now?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about Matt Brown.
And Victor Swanson.
Oh, I don't know Victor. Lauren.
Anderson? Or is she 6?
No, a gal named Lauren, she lives in Naperville.
Okay.
There's Walls, there's Matt Broly, and who's the other?
Victor Swanson. He's a
Lauren Underwood.
teacher.
Lauren
Lauren
Underwood.
Underwood, Jim Walls,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm only on the email list for 2, thank God.
So that's pretty much it for signatures. If there is anything I missed, watch the video from August where we talked about this, or just shoot us a question. They know me at the clerk's office and at the Board of Elections. The last few are real easy. The loyalty oath is optional. It just states you are saying you are not affiliated with any communist group. If you don't want to fill it out, you don't have to. If you do, it needs a notary at the bottom. Don't sign until you're in front of a notary. The certificate of deletions and the certificate of attached list of deletions. These come into play if you see a signature that you are removing yourself. If you see a signature that looks bad, whether they accidentally printed or you realize the address is not in your district, you are able to, as a circulator, put a line through it and say, I am recognizing this signature is not good, I'm removing it myself. Do you need to do that? Probably not, because unless they're going to check your petitions, nobody's going to catch it. But if you choose to do that, you have to fill in the certificate of deletions and the list which certifies you've done this page. Basically, if you're going to do that, ask us on Notary Night in November. I'll walk you through it. It's not that hard. Jay.
One last thing, if there's anybody here that would like to get some experience knocking on doors tomorrow and canvassing, I'm going to be canvassing in Romeoville from 10 to 12 and then again from 3 to 5, and I have a multitude of different candidates I'm going to be knocking doors for, but I'd be thrilled to have your company.
Please take Jackie up on that offer if you can. She is literally,
She's a champion.
she is a champion at the door. If you want to get trained by somebody who knows what they're doing, take her up on that.
Yeah, I was going to say pretty much the same. If you can't make it, like tomorrow I'm going to be in Macomb, so sorry, but let me know. If you've never done this before and you're afraid or just not sure, let us know.
Oh, I'm doing it Sunday too.
I'll be with you Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm staying overnight in
What time are you
Macomb.
doing Sunday?
Same time, 10 to 12, 3 to 5.
You're doing it Monday, you
I know I will be at homecoming in Western tomorrow, and I'm coming back Sunday, and I got something in Chicago.
3 to
But
5 Sunday.
is that at the Plainfield and McDonald's, or McDonald's and Plainfield? I'm
No,
sorry.
Romeoville.
Different
You're
campaign,
walking
sorry.
away. You're not, you're walking.
So again, walk with Jackie. She will teach you. You will learn a whole lot about just politics in general. If you want to have some of us walk with you, if you've never walked doors before, let us know. We're more than willing to do that. And that's pretty much it. You have to bring all of this back together in November. Again, we'll do the party here. These packets, most of them have a staple in it. You don't want that when you're turning it in. On the top, it says attached to petition. You put a metal clasp through it, which we have plenty of them in our office here. We'll guide you through how to put this together. Just bring loose sheets of paper, bring your completed paperwork and your ID. November 24th, 7 o'clock. It's just our normal Friday night social, the night after Thanksgiving. And that's pretty much it. That would get you on the ballot. Now, December 4th is the final day for turning in petitions. Then again, the public has 5 days, business days, to challenge you. So it's going to take a couple of weeks after that date before everything is actually official and certified, and then challenges, blah, blah, blah. You'll get an official list of candidates probably about right around New Year's. But for committeemen, you should be fine. So that would get you on the ballot. Go walk around and say, please vote for me. If you get more votes than anyone else in March, yay, you're elected. Any question? Yeah.
Who actually votes in the primaries? Like, I've never voted in one of those kind of primaries. Do people really do that?
Yes, absolutely. But the problem is not everyone knows about it.
Yeah.
Your job as a committee woman or potential committee woman is to go out and say, hey, go vote on March 18th or March 20th. Whatever that Tuesday is, sorry. Yes, a lot of people do vote, and when you go into when you go to the March ballot, March election, they'll say, do you wish to pull Democratic or Republican? You want as many Democrats to pull as possible because that gives you that weighted vote for the county election in April. Any other questions about this or anything else?
So if you have an, like, I already know somebody in my precinct.
Okay.
So who decides who wins?
Yes.
The voters.
So the vote, my name would actually be on something when they vote for me?
If you get this done correctly, you will have your name on the ballot. Whoever gets the most votes in March is the elected committee member. And that's, it's a party office, but it's just like every other elected office. You have to go out and campaign for this, if you have, especially if you have a challenge, or it's another, or if you are the challenger. So you're gonna have to get out and campaign for this. But, sure.
A lot of folks, there's not a whole lot of contested precinct committee elections, obviously. You're not going to have a lot of challengers, but you might have some this year. You may be in a precinct where there already is a precinct committee person, and they may be planning to run again. But they may not be a great precinct committee person. If they ever come to your door, have you ever heard from them? There are a lot of sitting on their butt precinct committee people out there that, like Jackie said, they're taking up a seat, but they're not doing the party any favors because they're not actually working their precinct.
Rebecca, I can go even one worse.
Okay.
I had a so-called Democratic precinct committee person that was helping the candidate of the Republican Party get summer interns run to help with the campaign for one of our endorsed candidates.
Now, what you may not know is the public can go to your township Democratic organization meetings. There's generally always an open session in there where you can go. You can actually go and meet these precinct committee people. You can see if the precinct committee person that you might be running against ever shows up to their township meetings. You could see kind of what's going on and get your feet wet and also see what happens at these meetings. This is the kind of group of people I want to hang with. I don't know. And I recommend that you do that. Don't wait till you're elected or appointed a precinct committee person. You can get involved now. You can attend your local township Democratic organization meetings. And you tell us what township you're in, we can.
Next April, perhaps.
April. Meeting?
New Lenox does not have an active township organization. There were some issues with the State Board of Elections with something that happened about 9 years ago. What you can do in our area is go out to the Lincoln Way Democrats. We have the chair here tonight, Sue, the newly elected chair for Lincoln Way Democrats. We meet at the fourth Wednesday of every month at 7, currently at the Beer Stube in Frankfurt.
Is that a big, do they serve beer there? Oh.
Yes, they do. And John's daughter works there.
Sounds awesome.
So you can go to the township meetings, you can go to the county meetings as well. Are there any other questions about the paperwork? I have a couple of quick announcements after that, but any other questions about the paperwork?
What term is it?
Committeeman is for 2 years, so every even year at the primary, you do this cycle all over again.
And Diane's running for my job next time. Woo!
Hey!
Always be looking for your replacement.
I've got a couple, if I ever move, I can go to them. Question up top.
Yes, I really don't know what a committee person's job is.
Well, you missed the
I don't
thing.
even know who my committee person is.
You might not have. Paula, you missed the first part. Paula, you missed the first part of the presentation, but it's all being videotaped and it will be on our Facebook page. And our 4 folks here that were speaking did an incredible job of describing what a precinct committee person does. I also would encourage folks to talk to your neighbors, people that couldn't be here tonight, who might want to be precinct committee people, direct them to that video, tell them we will hold their hands. I cannot tell you how important this is. We will not have this opportunity again for 2 years. Okay. We can get people appointed, and we're figuring out how to do that pretty well, but we can't get them elected again for 2 years. So this is a very, very important time. Please consider really strongly doing this and spreading the word.
And Paula, your person's name is on the Will County Clerk's website, whoever your committeeman is.
Yep.
They list them all there.
Yeah. And we have a book down there with everybody,
Oh, you got it
like
too?
old school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we can look it up for you.
You got the book, very good.
When I see you at the J.B. Pritzker Home Bank,
Looks like this, you can get it for free at the Will County Clerk.
That doesn't have the committee minutes.
This doesn't have the committee minutes?
There's a list of them on the clerk's website. I can look it up afterwards for you. Any other questions real quick before a couple of announcements? If you have something that you're just shy about asking, please come ask us afterwards. Thank you everyone for joining us. We do have some food left over.
We haven't made an announcement, even to somebody who's been
Okay, well, I'm doing the announcement, so.
Okay, then let us know when you're done.
We have some donation jars set up. The money that we collect strictly goes to paying our rent and office supplies. That's how we keep this going every week. So if you can donate, please do so. That being said, next week we actually are not having a social. The Will County Democratic Central Committee's annual dinner is happening next Friday, plus Senator Mike Hastings' birthday celebration, Gatsby-style dinner, both on next Friday. So we are not going to be holding a social.
What are the times of the two?
The County Dems dinner is 5:30 at the IBEW on Frontage Road here in Joliet. Mike Hastings is at the Odyssey Country Club in Tinley Park, starts at 7. See us for more information if you're interested. Next week, Sunday, October 8th, we are part of Our Revolution. We are an official revolution group.
I have my button, I got my button. Yes.
My button's in the car. We are co-sponsoring a gubernatorial forum at the Teachers Union in Chicago on Carroll Avenue next week, Sunday the 8th, from 1 to 3. And we're supposed to have all of the candidates there. As most of you probably know, Scott Drury has pulled out of the governor's race to run for Attorney General, so he will not be there. The other candidates are all supposed to be there.
Don't expect Teal Hardman.
Drag your neighbors. To me, it was a huge embarrassment that the Illinois Democratic Women of Will County had a candidate forum and there were less than 200 people there. When I went to the one in Matson, sponsored by Rich Township, they had 400 chairs in that room, and they had to get another 100 to seat all the people in that room. It's embarrassing that our county couldn't get that many people in our room.
And this forum is co-sponsored by 50 independent and progressive organizations throughout the state. So it's going to be a progressive forum. You can ask questions now. There's a link online.
To the fire.
You can ask your questions now, and I don't know who's going to say what, but I don't expect too many softball questions at this thing. There are some watch parties being held throughout the state. If you can't make it and you want to try to find a watch party near you, let us know. If you're interested in holding a watch party where you want to, it's being streamed on Facebook. We'll get you the information. If you're interested in holding a watch party, let us know. We can put it out there and try to get people just to go over to wherever you want to hold it. But that's next Sunday, the 8th, from 1 to 3. That's all I have specifically. Paul?
Any way to see that at another time? Can it be put on YouTube or some way so that, because
that might
that
be
time
on
is
the
out
live
for
stream
me.
now.
I'm sure we can. Let me check. We're having a conference call Sunday about that, so let me find out. I'm sure it will be available, but we'll double check and I'll let you know.
A watch party, that's one of those things I think that precinct committee people do, don't they?
Oh, that's right.
I think
What
so.
do you know?
Coffees for the candidates and things like that.
Loretta? Suzanne?
Hi guys, I'm so happy to be back. I know as progressives, we don't endorse candidates, but I know Lachey needs help. Anybody that wants to walk for J.B. Pritzker, please meet Lachey next Saturday at 1 o'clock at 210 Hames in Joliet.
Also, we phone bank every Wednesday. It's super fun. Bingo with prizes. There was laughing, and it was like so much
Okay,
fun.
so anybody that wants to help knock on doors, all right, see Lachey, 210 North Hames, but you can see her tonight after the meeting, okay? And I'll have J.B. Pritzker's petitions tomorrow and Sunday. All right. J.B. my guy. He my guy. That's just me. That's not progressive. That's Loretta saying this, okay? Now, but as progressives, we would like everybody, as many people, I don't know, some of you guys know about Samaje.
The little girl that was found dead under the couch.
And we were instrumental in getting that search party together.
We were in the fields looking for a child or a dead
for 2
body.
days. But cost the county a lot of money, let me tell you. Well, we were out there. I know. So
A lot of the progressives came out too. We put out the call in the middle of the night. People were coming
from everywhere. They came. So I'm so proud of you guys for helping. But what we're doing now is because
So Loretta, let me just tell you, she's a rock star. We're having meetings and trying to
It still upsets me, guys, when I think about the baby. It just does. So
we had meetings with Family Case Management. We had meetings with, who was the last meeting with?
they were there again.
Bishop Dukes, Steve Broadway, Loretta Westbrooks, and me are part of a group called SAFE. Say what that stands for.
Safety Alliance.
For families everywhere. So Loretta knows I'm very loud, and she kind of pushed me to call the director of DCFS to try and get her to come and answer some of our questions. So all four of us at SAFE like, yeah, that's a good idea. Loretta's like, you call. So I called and I got a meeting with the director of DCFS, who's gonna come here. I don't know what the location is
17th.
exactly, but she's committed to October 17th to answer our questions. We came up as a group of us four with 7 or 8 bullet points specifically related to this case that we would like answers moving forward, that they're following legislation that's already on the books, but moving forward that we're trying to save other children's lives. And like, what are those miscommunications or those whole, cracks in the system? That's what we're doing.
And we're gonna rewrite legislation.
This is open to the public.
We're
This
gonna
meeting is open
rewrite
to the public.
policies and procedures, guys.
Time and
Okay?
place.
And we're not gonna, it's gonna be, we don't have the place yet because where we want it to be, we don't think it's large enough. All right, so we're working on another venue. But we're not gonna drop the ball, and it's not just about Samaje. Samaje is not the first. And
There's
she won't
probably
be the
hundreds, if
last
not
if we
thousands in
don't do
Illinois.
something. If we don't do something.
And
Okay?
Pat McGuire's on board with us as well.
So,
Do-
all
we
right,
don't
so
have a
it's gonna
place,
be
but is there a
October
time?
17th. It's gonna be 10 o'clock in the morning, and when we have our next meeting next Friday, we'll give you a place.
Not next
Okay.
Friday, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
We're all
Okay.
fixed ready.
We'll update it on if we have it before, then we'll update it on
But
the
we
website.
need as many people to show up. We need as many people to show up, because we went to DCFS after that incident. They called us and told us there were some kids that went on their own to the Department of Children and Family Services here in
Begging
Joliet.
for help. And they were told.
And they called
they
the
were-
1-800 number.
They were told to leave and go call the 800 number. So a kid shows up to the office, distressed, in trouble,
Being
and
physically
abused, and they were sent out to call the
Yes.
800 number.
Yes.
Excuse
Yes.
me, ladies, have either one of you contacted the Joliet Police Department?
Yeah.
We are
I
in support of the
understood.
police department, and
I
they're
un-
doing everything they can. I'm not trying to cut you off, but my family, we have a murder victim in my family. My sister-in-law was stabbed to death 13 years ago. I would have never have dreamed of putting pressure on the police. You only get one shot at a murder conviction.
That's right.
You only get one shot to charge a person with murder one time. They're doing everything that they
They are.
possibly can.
They
I
are.
would never want to push the police to go quicker at all. They're doing everything they possibly
We're not
can.
going to picket the state's attorney's office because we want the right person convicted. They aren't doing what they're supposed to do. We will picket Springfield. We will picket DCFS. If that's what we have to do, we will take busloads of people down there. If that's what we have to do to change the policies and procedures of how they operate, because you guys really don't know. Once we sat in those meetings and found out how they operate,
Oh, yes, I
it's
do.
awful.
It's
I
infuriating.
used
It's
to
awful.
work with kids that were in the system. I never worked as a DCFS employee, but I had to work along DCFS with kids that were in the system. So I do know how they operate. But I
And to get
also-
gift cards to close out cases, caseworkers were getting gift cards to close out cases. The faster they closed them out, we're gonna give you a gift card? No, and I went in that house. I was in that house that night with that baby up under the couch dead, and I did not know it. But that house was filthy, and I was tiptoeing over garbage like this. This is the way I had to walk, and there was a caseworker in that house that day. Do not tell me. Those kids should have been taken out of that house that day, when that caseworker went in that house and she left them in there. If she would've took those kids out of there, Samantha would be alive.
Yeah, I was at the hearing downtown that they had, that wasn't a caseworker, that was, the paper got that wrong, it wasn't a caseworker that day, it was some other agency that had some services. That was-
Yeah, it was
We
family
reached-
case
it was
management.
family case management, but DCFS's caseworker was there 2 days prior.
And they
Okay.
have certain criteria, so you're right, their criteria is, it has to be horribly
Yes.
deplorable for how somebody keeps their house, but yeah, there are other things that they could have done.
There are plenty of things that could have done, for sure.
Yeah.
So we're not trying to rename parks, we're not
Definitely
trying to
needs to be
rename schools,
updated.
we're not trying to have candlelight vigils, we're trying to save lives.
Yeah.
And that's all we want to do.
So, we will give you guys, the place, we'll post it.
The reason why it's being moved is because originally it was just gonna be some community leaders and some groups, just the leaders of groups. And then the director decided to open it to the public and have media. And there's so much attention for it that there's been a public outcry that it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Our phones are blowing up and it's a lot of people that are gonna wanna be there. So we're trying to make sure we have a secure location that will house as many people as want to come, security, because it's a high-profile client, and that everything's all safe.
And we don't want yes people there.
In your discussion with the DCFS director, was there any indication that part of this problem where that child fell through the cracks had something to do with budgetary problems?
No, they didn't tell us it, no, because they're
There's
not
no
speaking
fluency of
money.
services.
That's it.
So if they don't find a case is difficult enough for them to take the children, but they think they need services, they contract out to family case management. By the way, family case management cannot refuse a case.
Yes.
So if they're over their head, underwater, and don't feel like they can help a family, they can't say no. They have to do it. There's no one else to them to go to ask for help. They can't throw it back at DCFS. That's part of the contract. They cannot do it. So anywhere that you go, if I go to a doctor and my problems are too overwhelming for that doctor, the doctor can refer me out or just tell me it's too much, we can't do this. If I go to get a haircut and it's just too difficult and my hairstylist can't do it, she's gonna tell me and send me somewhere else. So where do you try and protect children and you're not able to refer it out or ask for help or kick it back?
And with that agency that they're contracting, they have to call the 1-800 number like we do. They have no direct contact with DCFS. They have to call the 1-800 number, and I was like, what?
And those families can also refuse that service, by the way.
Who picked that outfit? Who picked them?
DCFS.
What's the politics?
I believe that, isn't that a privatized company? So
That's what I mean.
DCFS, but that's a
the
privately
owner of
contracted
that?
company.
But DCFS is the one that's
Those
giving them
are
the
all
guidelines.
really good questions for the forum, and this
Yeah.
is not the forum.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
a little
And it's like,
We just want you guys to
Follow the
come.
money, follow the money.
come with us and ask your
bring those questions
Right.
up.
And bring your friends
Yes.
that are mad about it too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for showing up. Again, if you want to walk for JB Pritzker, talk to Lachey. If you want to walk with Jackie, talk to Jackie. If you're interested in walking
come walk with me
Daniel
tomorrow,
Fish this
right?
Sunday at the Donovan Plainfield. Have a great night. Thank you.
Larry?